recognize the gentlewoman from Oregon, Ms. Bynum, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to our witnesses today. The first question I have is I'm a mom. I've got 4 kids. 2 of them are college age. I love them. I want them to live in our community, but it doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of hope for our kids moving out of our homes these days. And so I wanted to ask if any of you knew the average age of the first-time home buyer and whether we should be concerned. I believe
it's risen up to 32?
38 was what I was told.
38, okay. I believe it, and it's in the 30s now, which is higher than it had been, yes. If you were asking me if I'm concerned about that, no.
Would you elaborate?
Well, I don't think that the policy that the U.S. Congress implements or that the federal government implements should be directed at picking a particular age for the first-time home buyer. And I think that the reason that the age has gone up is a whole set of circumstances, some of which they can't control. And I don't think that that should be the goal anyway, so.
You know, a lot of this is a response to constriction on local supply. So I think a lot of this has to do with our local communities and the zoning laws, and we need to increase the supply of houses, and that would make it more affordable. But a lot of that is just state and local regulation.
Okay. That's very helpful, thank you. Mr. Consul, so rising mortgage rates have made it much harder for first-time home buyers to afford a home, and so many existing homeowners are locked into low rates, limiting our housing supply, some of which was just alluded to. So given that monetary policy plays a role in interest rates but isn't the only factor in housing costs, what policy solutions do you think could complement the Fed's efforts to ensure affordability without increasing inflationary pressures?
Estimates vary, but I think associations believe there's somewhere between 3 and 6 million too few homes. So policies that allow us to build homes faster and cheaper. More generally, productivity in construction and housing has lagged quite a bit over the last few decades. I think there's been a lot of research trying to figure out why. But as Dr. Cohen mentioned, local constraints seem to play a role in that. I will say efforts to boost income security for young families is quite important. I look at the monthly child tax credit that was fully refundable, that was passed as part of the American Rescue Plan, which cut child poverty in half. I think was an incredibly good investment in families and community. And then that investment in children and families pays off dividends decades later as better health outcomes, better education outcomes, and better outcomes for everyone.
Thank you. My second question on that is, we know that increasing the housing supply is critical to long-term affordability, but the higher borrowing costs have made it more expensive for developers to build new homes. So how do we ensure that efforts to curb inflation don't worsen the housing shortage and make affordability even harder in years to come?
That was an irony and a difficult part of the recovery was that, one place where we knew higher and restrictive interest rates were particularly binding was on the housing market, which slowed quite dramatically after having picked up. That said, the housing deficit is a longer-term problem. It certainly comes from the aftermath of the financial crisis and the large wave of foreclosures that happened after that, and the much lower rate of housing building that happened following that. So, that was something the Federal Reserve obviously took into account. The fact that the way housing inflation was measured was quite high, but they were also restricting the supply of new housing. But that was a more temporary and short-term problem. As rates normalize, hopefully we can see home building pick up, and we can find ways to make home construction productivity even better.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to put on the record, I am very concerned that our young people, based on the testimony of the witnesses here today, can't really look forward to being able to purchase a home in the next 10 years if they're just graduating college at about 22. I mean, I think that's what you're seeing as an uprising in this country, and that's really challenging for me. So maybe it's on policymakers, and maybe what you all are suggesting, it's not on the Fed, but it's on policymakers to make that a reality for our young people. So
Gentlemen, gentle ladies, duly noted. Statements, comments duly noted.
Thank you.